Hello, friends. I'm Chris. I'm from Transformation Nation Yoga and Wellness. Thank you for joining us for Science of Stretching. In this practice, I'm going to lead you through our happy hips sequence. What I think you'll need to be safe and to get the most out of your practice are a yoga mat. If you have one, a blanket, like a yoga blanket or any other blanket, can be really nice. Now, you don't have to do it this way, but my preference for the blanket is to fold the blanket in half and then lay the half blanket out across my mat in such a way that the long edge of the half blanket is perpendicular to the long edge of my mat. So hopefully you can see mine behind me here set up that way. I'd like you to have yoga blocks. You could do this practice with one. I would prefer that you had two. I'd like you to have a bolster. So in the absence of a bolster, rather than like a pillow off the bed, you could use a couple of pillows, but you'd really need to stack them up. Get something that's going to give you some resistance. So what you probably have at home that can make a really nice surrogate for a bolster is a couch cushion. And I'd like you to have a chair. Now at home, I have this little wooden stool that works like a charm for everything that I want to do. In the absence of that, like a metal folding chair works great. It doesn't have to be a folding chair. What I'm really looking for here is something that doesn't have arms on it. So anything like that will fit the bill. So pause your recording, roll out your mat, gather up your materials, and when you're ready, press play, and I'll meet you on your mat for our Science of Stretching practice. Find a comfortable seated position. And as always, let's start by adding some length to the spinal column, stacking the joints. You can have your eyes open with a soft gaze or gently closed. And if it's comfortable for you, if it feels safe and appropriate, place your right hand on your heart, your left hand on your belly, and repeat these words after me to yourself, either out loud or silently. May this practice strengthen and heal my body, my mind, and my spirit. May this practice strengthen and heal my body, my mind, and my spirit. And you can leave your hands right there, or you can release your hands down to your lap or to your thighs. And let's start out with our breath for tonight. This is our 4-8 down regulating breath, a 4-8 relaxation breath. It should be a 4-count inhale through your nose, followed by an 8-count exhale through your mouth, making that ha sound. So let's start with a cleansing breath. Exhale out all your breath. And then on an inhale, draw in a deep, life-affirming, dignified breath. And then open your mouth, make a ha sound. Good, you guys. All right, and then right away, go into that 4-8 breath. Inhale through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through your mouth. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And that is our breath pattern, friends. If you can, follow that pattern. So let's start to warm the body with moon squats. So make your way up to standing first. We'll find the standing position. Your feet hip distance apart. Reach your arms up over your head. Turn your palms to the outside. Palms face up and out. Draw your shoulder blades together like there was a volleyball between them you were trying to hold up. Lift your chin, but not dramatically, just a gentle lift. And just as a reminder, if we go into the squats, everybody practicing tonight has practiced in this sequence before. You know you can do it off the wall, do it on a chair with blocks under your seat, or support under your heels, or right on the floor. Inhale. Exhale, cross your forearms in front of you. Turn your toes at 10 to 12 degrees. Sit down into a squat. In this first one, we're going to hold for a few breaths. So wet noodle. Release your fingertips down toward the earth. Release your forehead down to the earth and breathe. So because this is a hip sequence tonight, there'll be quite a lot of squatting. We're starting the practice, of course, with moon squats as always. We will close the practice with a passive squat as well. On your next inhale, start pressing into your feet. Lift yourself up to standing. Lift your gaze, open your heart, turn your palms out, draw the shoulder blades together. Exhale, cross your forearms in front of you, sit into a squat, release your forehead to your forearms. Inhale, lift up into standing. Exhale, sit back into a squat. Inhale, rise. Exhale, squat. Inhale, rise. Exhale, squat, and we'll hold this time, 3 or 4 breaths here. Just as a reminder, that 4-8 breath is what allows us to hold these poses with quite a lot of sensation for quite a long length of time. In wet noodle, applying that wet noodle principle is what the other part of what allows our muscles to relax and stretch. We're going to work through one more set of moon squats. Inhale, press down into your feet. Come up to standing, open your heart. Exhale, sit back into a squat. Cross your forearms, release your forehead to your forearms. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, squat. Inhale, rise. Exhale, squat. Inhale, rise. Exhale, squat, and we'll hold this time, 3 or 4 breaths, and then we'll move on to our first true science of stretching pose for today, which will be blaster pose. So deep hip flexion in both hips in the squat. All right, however you want to get there, use good body mechanics. Make your way into tabletop. And then from your tabletop, step your right leg forward to the outside of your right hand. Take the heel or the inside of your right hand, and the webbing between your thumb and index finger behind the heel. Scoot that right heel forward. Tuck your toes under your left foot. Walk that left knee back long behind you. And then allow your hips to fall down to the earth. So I'm going to choose blocks under my hands, at least initially here. But you could have your hands on your mat. You could also, this is a great place for that chair or stool, is hands or forearms on that chair or stool, especially if you're getting dumping in the lower back. You could also, I'm not going to choose to do this, but you could fold forward to the inside of that right leg. If I had more open hips, I'd be pretty motivated maybe to add a little back work here. But for me, the primary task that I'm looking for here is hip opening, hip opening, hip opening. So I'm going to keep the joint stacked and gravity pressing most of the weight of my body down toward the earth through the hips. Next Level Human is in the house tonight. Everyone taking this class is in Next Level Human, which is pretty awesome. All right, so check in with your body, wet noodle here. Notice if you're gripping anywhere, especially anywhere. If you think about what we're trying to get into here, we're mostly trying to get into the hips. So if any gripping, maybe in the deep six lateral hip rotators on the outside of the left hip, or maybe your hip flexors in your right hip, and see if you can release there. What we have going on in the body here, as far as the movement of the hip, we have hip flexion of the right hip, hip extension of the left hip. So principle 3 of gravity yoga is the time under passive tension. So this is a really straightforward and usually considered a pretty easy and accessible pose in vinyasa yoga because we hold it for 5 breaths. With these long holds, this pose is a lot. You guys are doing great. I'm hearing your breath. And I'm seeing your efforts to relax your body while experiencing adversity. So we have 2 more rounds of that 4-8 breath. I'll count those out for you. Exhale out all your breath. And then inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good job. If you're folded forward, lift yourself up first. Start pressing into that right heel. Maybe press the left hip back. Come back into tabletop. Just a quick reset. We're going to pulse into child's pose 3 times. So knees out wide, big toes together. Drop your seat down towards your heels. 1, 2. Come back up to tabletop. 3. And then from tabletop right away, let's set up for the other side. Step your left foot forward to the outside of your left hand. Slide the webbing between your left thumb and left index finger behind the heel. Scoot that left heel forward. And remembering that our level of sensation we're looking for is a 7. So you may be there already, but if you're not, tuck the toes under the right foot. Walk that right knee back behind you. And then your hands could be on blocks. They could be on that thigh. They could be on the chair. You could fold forward on the inside of that left thigh. Those are all right. Those are all correct. Check for gripping, check for any muscular engagement. Apply that wet noodle principle. And the breath in the studio space is amazing. And this is obvious, it's just the opposite of the other side, but we have hip flexion of the left hip, hip extension of the right hip. Looks really good, friends. Really, really good. Three more rounds of 4-8 breath. I'll count these out with you. Exhale out all your breath. Then inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job. If you're folded forward, lift up first and then start pressing into your left heel. Slide that right hip back first. Come into tabletop and then lower body is child's pose setup. We're going to pulse again for 1, 2, 3, and then right away we'll set up for our next pose, which is going to be butterfly. So I'm going to choose to sit on a bolster. Bring the soles of your feet together and maybe have 2 blocks or even your chair. So here's one option. You could place the chair in front of you and you could fold forward over that chair. Forearms or hands on the chair. For some of you, your forehead may come all the way down to the earth. That's not my life experience. You could also do what Lucas calls blockhead and stack blocks up. Like even on, well, here, yeah, on the floor is fine for me. And rather than grabbing the feet, if you can, just lay your wrists, hands, and forearms on whatever surface, whether that's the chair. Ooh, I love that. I see hands on the feet, forehead on the chair on a blanket. I love that. That's brilliant. Wet noodle right away. So what do we have here? We have lateral hip rotation in both hips. Maybe a little bit of hip AB abductor action going on as well. But the primary action of the hip here, the primary range of motion that we're working here is lateral hip rotation. Check into your body. Look for any kind of gripping. Look too, notice if you've opened up space. So just as a reminder, the level of sensation that we're going for here is about a 7. So if you've opened up some space and that sensation has dropped down to a 6, maybe you see if you can encourage your body to come a little further forward into this forward fold until you reach a 7. If you're already at a 7, no reason to change anything. One more round of breath. Exhale out all your breath. And then inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Use your hands to lift yourself back up. Stack the joints first. And the reset that we're going to do is just a heart opener. So come onto your knees, onto your shins, your knees together or an inch apart. Especially like if the hips are tricky for you, like hip replacement recipients, sometimes, because there's 2 of us in the room here, sometimes knees together is really tricky, right? So if you need some space, take some space. Maybe 2 blocks under your seat, maybe a single block, maybe no blocks. And then interlace your hands behind your back, press the heels of your hands together, press your knuckles down toward the earth, lift your gaze. This is just a reset, so we're not going to hang out here too long. And just as a preview, where we're going is reclining pigeon. All right, friends, release your chin to your chest, lift yourself up, press into your shins first, and then come up into a tabletop position. And from your tabletop, slide your right knee forward to the far right-hand edge of your mat. I like it to the outside of your right wrist. So super wide. Your right shin, it could be parallel to the top edge of the mat, but that's not a good shape for most bodies. I'm not worried about that. Tuck your toes under your left foot, walk that left knee further back behind you. So if the back is crunchy here, if you're getting crunching in the lower back, chair here, 4 hands or forearms on your chair. I'm going to choose, at least initially, a bolster under my heart, but lift your gaze on an inhale and then walk your hands forward, fold down onto your bolster or onto the earth. So if the right hip is lifted up, you could place a block or a blanket under it. You could also leave it suspended as long as we're not allowing, because I've got a gap under my hip as well. But notice the tendency for the hips to want to drift over to the right. Keep them center. If you can keep them center, you could leave them suspended. And so this is probably obvious too. We've been in similar places like this. What do we have going on in the body? The right hip is in both hip flexion and lateral hip rotation. The left hip is an extension. Check in for gripping anywhere. Look for wet noodle again. Apply wet noodle everywhere that you can. If the breath is dropped off, this for most of us is going to be a fairly high sensation pose. So come back to that breath. Speaking of which, 2 more rounds of that. So exhale out all your breath. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good job, friends. Walk your hands back up under your shoulders. Slide back into tabletop. And most of us want to reset here. My body kind of does, but we're not going to take that. We'll do the reset for both sides at the same time. Right away, slide your left knee forward, nice and wide, far left-hand edge of your mat. Tuck your toes under your right foot. Walk, walk, walk. That right knee back behind you. Open your heart on an inhale. And then again, if the back is tweaky, hands or forearms on the chair. Otherwise, you can start to walk your hands forward, fold forward, with or without support, if that left hip is lifted. Either way. If you do it without support and the hip wants to continually drift over to the left, I would roll a blanket up and put it under your hip. Flexion and lateral hip rotation in the left hip, extension in the right hip. Check into your body, check for any gripping, any muscular engagement that you don't need. Go back to wet noodle. All right, friends, 2 more rounds of breath. Exhale all your breath. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job. Walk your hands up under your shoulders. Lift your torso up. Slide your left knee back to your right. Ooh, and then walk your hands back toward your knees. Sit back onto your heels. You could place 1 or 2 blocks in between your heels. And then on an inhale, press into your shins. Bring your hands to your glutes like they were in the back pockets of denim jeans. Tweeze your elbows together. Lift your heart up toward the stars. Maybe drop the crown of your head back behind you. And then exhale, chin to your chest. Release your hands. Sit back onto your heels. Inhale, press into your shins. Lift up. Come back into this mini camel. Pressing the hips forward, lifting through the heart. Exhale, drop everything down toward the earth. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, drop down. One more time on an inhale, press into your shins, rise up, rising through the heart. Exhale, release your seat down to the earth. And then make your way onto your seat. We're going to go into double pigeon. So I'm going to choose to elevate my seat on a bolster, and I'm going to want 2 blocks. You may or may not want that same arrangement. Take your left shin parallel to the top edge of your mat. Hook the pinky edge blade of your right foot on the outside of your left thigh. Take a look in between the legs. Notice the tendency of that left heel to want to scoot in towards your seat and then press it forward. When you look between your legs, I'd like you to see a triangle shape the whole time. Right? You could put, if you've got, you guys look really good. You could put a block under that right knee. I'm actually, my first real yin teacher, my first in-person yin teacher, Kristen Boucher, showed me this trick. Placing a block on top of the lifted knee and then the forearm on the block is just a little additional weight. So this pose is a lot. And people tend to have, I know people who love this pose, but that's not typical. For most people, they have one or two, I see one or two things. People have either a love-hate relationship or they have a hate-hate relationship with this pose. But the good news with this pose is we make gains really, really quickly. Even within the time that we're holding this today, you will notice that. Right, so if this is super easy for you and you're feeling really easeful, not my experience in my body, you could start to walk your hands forward and release your chest and your forehead down to the mat, to a bolster, or to a block. And here, once again, we're in lateral hip rotation for both hips. People feel this pose in lots of different places. So you might be feeling this in the deep 6 lateral hip rotators on the outside of your right hip. That's where I've got most of the sensation. But you may be feeling this too in the hip flexors, especially in the inside of your left leg. Check in again for gripping, especially check in if you have any gripping in the hips. Right, there's a tendency to clamp up in the hips a bit in this pose. Come back to that 4-8 breath, especially if you have a lot of sensation. And remember too, eye on the prize on the level of sensation. We're looking for a 7 and we're not looking for a 10. And this pose is really challenging. It's not the peak pose of this practice. So if you're going to really push the sensation on a pose tonight, this is probably not the one that I would ask you to consider choosing it for. That being said, this is your practice, friends. I'll support you in whatever you want. One more round of breath. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job, friends. If you're folded forward, lift yourselves up. Ooh, can release your right leg. Take your right shin parallel to the top edge of your mat. Hook the pinky edge blade of your left foot on the outside of your right knee. Check in between your legs right away. Watch for that left heel, that right heel sliding back in towards center. Ooh, so much better on this side. Use your props to support yourself, friends. And again, remember, we're looking for a 7 here. And if you have more space, you can fold forward any amount. I've got enough space, I can do a little bit of a fold here, not much. But see what opens up for you over the next several minutes. And abide within that breath. Come back to that 4-8 breath if it's dropped off. So I'll remind you that now, what we're really going to need at the next pose is the peak pose. So continue practicing over and over, coming back to that 4-8 breath. Two more rounds of 4-8 breath. Exhale out all your breath. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job, friends. That's a lot. Good job. Lift yourself up. Unwind your legs. Oh my God. Ooh. And take the time you need to get into a high plank. This is our reset pose. Ooh. This can be done on the knees. Remember, high plank can be done on the knees. No, no, no. We're just going to use this as a reset. Yeah, great question. Question was, are we going to be here for a long time? Press your heels toward the back edge of your mat. Draw your belly button toward your spine. Puff the space between your shoulder blades up toward the heavens. Make the back of your head buoyant in line with the back of your heart. And then tap your knees down to the earth. And we're going into our peak pose. This is going to be Jackknife Blaster. So what you'll need for this pose are some space on a wall, your bolster, 2 blocks, and a chair. So basically the whole kit and caboodle. You could slide your mat over to a wall, and you don't need to. Totally up to you. All right, so once you've selected your wall space, tuck your bolster up into where the floor meets the wall. And then tuck your left knee into that corner. So right on top of the bolster. So this could be your Jackknife Blaster. So we're looking for that sensation level of 7, right? Or you could come up onto the ball of your right foot. That could be your Jackknife Blaster. You could walk your right foot forward until you're in like a low lunge. To add sensation, you could lift your hands up on the blocks at any height. Or at the last adjustment, if you really want to maximize the sensation, forearms on your chair or hands on your chair. Once you hear wet noodle again, release your hips forward. Release your hips forward toward that right heel. Come into your breath right away. You guys got this? Yep, that's it, Janet. That's it. Yep, you can. You can. If you're at 7, stay right there. But you could also, the first step one is to tuck the ball of your right foot up onto your yep. Slide your left knee back in toward, or right knee back in toward the wall. Good. That is it, guys. That's Jackknife Blaster. Are you getting compression pain? What kind of pain in your knee? Good. Less pain in the knee now or no pain? Okay. If there's no pain there, I would stay right there. Janet, you doing okay? Yeah, the next one is the booger for me too. Are you doing great, friends? So keep in mind, higher level of sensation here, shorter pose. And this pose is a lot. So when Lucas describes people's emotional responses to the poses, when he's telling people about homework, he says, do 15 minutes a night before you go to bed. He says, pick 2 poses that you hate and 1 pose that you hate less, right? So the emotional response of hatred for this shape, I'm not saying that's good, but it's really, really common. Yep, that's right. Yeah, this is I can put the settings for adult language too, so you can say whatever you like in here, friends. No worries. All right, one more round of 4-8 breath. Exhale out all your breath. And then inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. To come out, reverse the process. Hands down to the mat first. Come onto the ball of your right foot. And then you can slide that left knee out of the wall. And then right away, set up for the other side. Tuck your right knee into the wall. Come up onto the ball of your left foot first. Maybe step that left foot forward. From here, next option is hands on blocks. Dear God, yeah, this one is the crux for me here. So I'm mirroring for you guys. So this is my left hip that I'm sinking into here. Ooh, come into that 4-8 breath. So where you may notice gripping in different parts of your body. Here with this prosthetic hip, my rectus femoris is typically a little overengaged. That's where I'm feeling the most sensation. So this is a quad. So you'll feel that rectus femoris starting from the knee and it comes all the way up. It's also a hip flexor. So sort of to the closer to the outside of the hip, away from the groin a little bit. I release. For you guys, it's your back hip, the one that the knee's up against the wall. As you breathe, see if you can release that hip forward toward the forward heel. Two more rounds of 4-8 breath. Exhale out all your breath first. Good, you guys. And then inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job, friends. Hands down to the mat first. Slide that front foot back. Ooh. And then you can draw your knee out away from that mat. Or away from the wall, rather. In our counter pose will be downward facing dog. So index fingers at 12 o'clock. Press your palms down into the earth. Tuck your toes under your feet. Lift your hips up. Press back into down dog. Relax your neck right away. And then reach your right hand back. And you can take a grip anywhere from on the outside of your left knee to down toward your left ankle. Maybe shift your gaze up under your left armpit. And we'll change sides. Release your right hand down to the mat. Reach your left hand back anywhere on the outside of your right thigh, your right calf. Release your left hand down to the earth. Tap your knees down to the earth. The final shape before a final resting shape is any passive squat. So you can have your back up against the wall. You can have your seat on a chair, seat on a block, heels elevated, heels on the floor. But feet are out, hip distance apart, toes are turned out 10 to 12 degrees, and then wet noodle. One of the things that I love about this sequence, did you have a question? Okay. One of the things I love about this sequence is because we start with the moon squats in the beginning and then we close with the passive squats, we close with this passive squat and we're doing all this hip opening throughout the practice. It's basically an hour of hip opening. Can be a really nice diagnostic to see the effectiveness of the practice. I don't know how much more ease you're feeling in your squat here. For me, it's significant. All right, friends, from your passive squat, just use good body mechanics. Come out of this any way you like. So I'm just going to rock forward on the balls of my feet, bring my hands down to the earth, tap my knees down, make your way into any final resting shape. Remember, all these props that you have available right now include the wall, the chair, your bolster, your blankets, your blocks. You can use any, all, or none of those to support your final resting shape. friends. Swallow 2 or 3 times. And then start to draw some deeper breaths. Begin to reanimate your body with movement, starting small, starting with the digits, the fingers and the toes, or maybe starting with the neck. Drawing the chin from shoulder to shoulder. And then as you're ready, go bigger, rotating your hands at the wrists, your feet at the ankles, maybe taking a full body stretch. And then roll over onto either side, find a fetal position. And take 3 or 4 breaths, maybe 5 breaths here. Check in 2 things. Physically, notice your hips. Just check in and notice if you created any openness for yourself in the work that you put in tonight. And I'd like you to feel for the residual effects of that 4-8 relaxation breath. Maybe on your nervous system, maybe on your readiness for a restful night of sleep. And then press yourself up into any seated position, any soft eyes. And if it feels safe and comfortable for you, place your right hand on your heart, your left hand on your belly. And then you can repeat to yourself, either silently or out loud, if this feels appropriate for you. May this practice strengthen and heal my body, my mind, and my spirit. May this practice strengthen and heal my body, my mind, and my spirit. And that concludes our practice for this evening. Friends, I'm Chris. I'm from Transformation Nation Yoga and Wellness. And this was our Science of Stretching Happy Hips sequence. You're doing an amazing job. Keep going.